Bill here with another edition of Metal Minutes. Today is Wednesday, May 5th, 2021, and gold has had a fairly good week, up about 1% to 1791. Silver's up 2% to 2653. We've seen platinum up 1% to 1235, and palladium is up 2% to 3015 for the week. For the 1 year time, we've seen gold up 5%, silver up 77%, platinum is up 60%, and palladium is up 66%. So another, just an example why it's important to diversify, and we see things continuing to have a good run from here. Primarily platinum, gold, and silver, I believe, will finish the year out well from this point. Well, the word for today is shrinkflation. And shrinkflation is a kind of a discrete form of inflation. And someone noticed that when they went to Costco, the cost for paper towels was the same as it was. But when they read the package, the new roll of towels only has 140 sheets on it. The previous roll had 160 sheets for the same price. So it's a 15% price increase without raising the prices. So that's shrinkflation, and often that's what happens initially when inflation begins to start. And we've seen that phenomenon actually go on for about the last year. And now it's ramping up. We've seen 800% increase in the times that the word inflation is used on corporate conference calls. And the Bank of America has done a graph of year-over-year inflation versus how often it's mentioned on conference calls. And they've noticed an uncanny relationship. Usually it's just a few months lag between the time the number of times inflation is mentioned and the change in the inflation rate. And so they've seen a massive increase, more than the last several years, in the last month on the number of times inflation is mentioned. And what that indicates is that we're going to see inflation in a broad spectrum over the next few months. Now this matches up fairly well with recent announcements that have been made. Over 30 major companies across all sectors of our economy have announced that they're going to be increasing prices. Now 30 companies, you may say, well, there's plenty of other companies. The thing is, that's like someone is stopped for speeding on the highway. Well, for every person that's stopped for speeding, how many more are speeding that didn't get stopped? And so a lot of the price increases are not announced ahead of time. Companies try not to do that. But there's been over 30 across all sectors that have. So what does that mean for us? That means that it's a great time to be an investor or a holder of precious metals. Over time, and including for thousands of years, we've seen, for example, back in 300 AD, an ounce of silver would buy a certain amount of grain. And today that ounce of silver will continue to buy the same amount of grain or same amount of bread, because over time it protects against the ravages of inflation. Compare that to just 15 or 20 years of what a loaf of bread cost 15 or 20 years ago in our currency, the American dollar. And look at a stack of lumber, what that used to cost just a few years ago compared to our dollar. Now incidentally, back in 1970, the same number of ounces of gold that it took to build an average American home is the same amount of ounces that it takes today to build the average American home. Even though the price has drastically increased in our American currency terms, gold has maintained its purchasing power over that period of time. So it's good to know that there are actions we can take, and it's as simple as buying gold or silver or platinum or palladium. I'm a little concerned with palladium. I think it's probably a good time to take some earnings if you have some growth there in your palladium. It's reaching high points again, and so you might think about that if you already hold palladium. But I still see some room for growth in silver and in gold and in platinum. So have a good week. We'll talk to you soon. God bless.